Now, very often when we compare these solutions, colloids, and suspensions, we kind of talk about its ability that the molecule is big enough that it actually, when light hits it, it scatters light because it's not dissolved. We also look at it by how big the molecule is and can it pass through a dialysis membrane or a membrane because it's small enough to pass or it's big enough. And so we compare those when we talk about solutions and colloids and suspensions. So the solution we've already talked about. The solution, we're saying, in a solution we have stuff that's dissolved. And so it's small enough to pass through a dialysis membrane, but it's not large enough to scatter light. In other words, when we dissolve salt in water, it's clear. When we dissolve sugar in water, it's clear. So as we shine light through that substance, the light goes right through. It doesn't hit the molecules and scatter light in different directions. But when we look at a colloid is where the particles are larger than in solutions. And they are dispersed. They're not dissolved. So they're dispersed because they keep moving and they don't settle. And that can be because they're just constantly in motion, or they're charged and they're constantly repelling each other. A great example is you wake up in the morning, you grab the orange juice carton, you make sure you shake up the orange juice because the good stuff, especially the high pulp stuff, the pulp goes to the bottom. Okay? The kind of diluted orange juice would stay on the top. Okay? So you want to mix that up. Okay? Versus, okay, look at your milk. Why don't every morning, okay, it's full of protein. Why don't you every morning have to shake and resuspend your milk proteins? Okay, well, if it's been in the fridge for a while, you may have to, okay, but hopefully you don't. Okay, it's kind of gross. Okay, but in that situation, okay, you don't have to shake up your milk to mix up those proteins. The milk is white, and those proteins, okay, that's a colloidal liquid because the proteins are constantly in motion. And that's what creates the appearance of the milk as being white. So if you shine a light, it doesn't pass through, okay, the liquid, okay, and the molecules are big enough, okay, that they don't, they're too large to pass through a dialysis membrane, but you don't have to shake them up because they're constantly in motion. Now the last of the three, a suspension. A suspension is where the particles are even larger than a colloid, and because of that, they settle to the bottom. So as long as you keep agitating them, they'll stay moving around the liquid. As soon as you stop, they'll settle. So muddy water is a great example. Okay, you have a glass, some sort of container of water, muddy water, you shake it up, okay, it gets brown, okay, and it gets evenly brown. You let it sit, the dirt goes to the bottom, okay. Now, if we really want to maybe put these three things together, we can look at what we call whole blood. Now, when you go donate blood, they're going to stick a big 16-gauge needle in your arm. Okay, blood comes into the bag, mixes with an anticoagulant to keep it from clotting, mixes it with a little bit of sugar to keep those red cells alive. But now, for the next 42 to 45 days, that blood can sit in the refrigerator in preparation for someone to receive that blood. Now, just so you know, and it will come into play later when we talk about blood in our next semester, but it's very rare that we actually transfuse what we call whole blood into a patient. We separate it into its parts. We spin it in a centrifuge, and we let due to the centrifugation, the formed elements or the cells go to the bottom, but the plasma stays on top. If we look at whole blood is an example of a solution and a colloid and a suspension. And the reason that it is because do I have stuff that given time will settle? Yeah, we call those the red cells, the white cells, and the platelets. They'll settle, whether I centrifuge them or not. This centrifuge just speeds it up for me. Do I have dissolved stuff? Yeah, we called those electrolytes already. We have sodium and chloride and potassium, magnesium. We have those electrolytes. So I have a solution of electrolytes in my plasma. I also have proteins in my plasma, okay, that are dispersed in my plasma as well. So I have dissolved stuff, I have dispersed stuff, and I have suspended stuff. So whole blood is actually an example of all three. I have a solution, and I have a colloid, and I have a suspension. Okay, I have all three of those. If I look at whole blood as a whole, okay, how's that?